London, a city steeped in history, a tapestry woven with threads of triumph and turmoil. At its heart, a force emerged, tasked with maintaining order, upholding the law, the police. Our journey delves into the complex world of police complaints, tracing their roots back to the very inception of modern policing in the late 19th century. From the establishment of the Metropolitan Police to the evolution of complaint procedures, we unravel the intricate relationship between the police and the public they serve. Join us as we navigate the labyrinth of accountability, examining real-life cases, delving into the psychological impact of complaints, and exploring the ongoing quest for a fairer, more transparent system. The year is 1829. Crime thrives in the shadows of a rapidly industrializing London. Sir Robert Peel, a visionary Home Secretary, champions a radical idea, a professional, organized police force. The Metropolitan Police Act is passed, giving birth to the Bobbies, named after Peel himself. This landmark moment marks a turning point in law enforcement, replacing the often chaotic watchman system with a centralized, uniformed force. Dressed in blue coats and top hats, these early officers patrolled the streets, their presence a symbol of order in a city grappling with change. Yet the birth of the police force wasn't without its detractors. Suspicion and distrust lingered, with many viewing this new force as an infringement on personal liberty. The early years of the Metropolitan Police were fraught with challenges. Corruption reared its ugly head, with some officers succumbing to bribery and abuse of power. Public mistrust festered, fueled by incidents of brutality and discrimination. The very force entrusted with upholding the law was at times seen as part of the problem. These early failings underscored a critical need, a mechanism for accountability, a way for citizens to voice grievances against those sworn to protect them. The seeds of the police complaint process were sown, driven by the need to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the communities they were meant to serve. Initially, complaints against officers were handled internally, a system fraught with bias, lacking transparency, and often failing to inspire confidence in the public. The 20th century witnessed a gradual shift towards greater accountability. Independent bodies emerged, tasked with investigating complaints and holding officers answerable for misconduct. The establishment of the Police Complaints Authority in 1984 marked a significant milestone, introducing civilian oversight and aiming to restore public trust. This evolution, however, has been a long and arduous journey, marked by both progress and setbacks, a constant struggle to strike the delicate balance between protecting police officers' rights and ensuring justice for victims of misconduct. Section 5. Seeds of dissatisfaction, the genesis of the complaint process. As the 20th century progressed, so too did the nature of police complaints. Issues of racial profiling, excessive force, and discriminatory practices came to the forefront. High-profile cases, often amplified by the media, ignited public outrage, sparking debates about systemic racism, institutional bias, and the very role of the police in a democratic society. The complaint process, once a fledgling system, became a critical battleground in the fight for police accountability and justice. It is within this complex and often contentious landscape that our exploration begins.
Section 1. Words of Allegiance. Reciting the Oath. I do solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will well and truly serve the King and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland in the office of Constable, with fairness, integrity, diligence and impartiality, upholding fundamental human rights and according equal respect to all people. These words, etched into the very fabric of British policing, form the bedrock of the police oath. Every constable, upon joining the force, swears this solemn vow, pledging allegiance to the Crown and dedicating themselves to the service of their community. But what do these words truly mean? What weight do they carry in the daily life of an officer navigating the complex realities of law enforcement?
Section 2. Historical roots from medieval constables to modern policing. The origins of the police oath can be traced back centuries to the medieval concept of the constable, a local official tasked with keeping the peace. Over time, as law enforcement evolved, so too did the oath, adapting to reflect changing societal values and expectations. The modern iteration, enshrined in the Police Reform Act of 2003, reflects a commitment to human rights, diversity, and ethical conduct. It serves as a constant reminder of the principles underpinning modern policing, a compass guiding officers in their interactions with the public. Section 3. Pillars of Duty, unpacking the oath's core tenets. The police oath is not merely a ceremonial utterance, it's a blueprint for ethical conduct, a framework for responsible policing: fairness, integrity, diligence, impartiality. These 4 pillars form the cornerstone of the oath, shaping the actions and decisions of officers on a daily basis. Fairness demands that officers treat all individuals equally, regardless of background, beliefs, or circumstances. Integrity compels them to act with honesty and transparency, upholding the law without fear or favor. Diligence underscores their commitment to thoroughness and perseverance in their duties. And impartiality ensures that personal biases never cloud their judgment or actions. Section 4. The weight of responsibility, interpretation and application. The police oath, however, is not without its complexities. Interpreting its broad principles in the heat of the moment, amidst the unpredictable nature of police work, can be challenging. What constitutes fairness in a volatile situation? How does one maintain impartiality when confronted with personal biases? These are questions that officers grapple with daily, navigating the grey areas of law enforcement where clear-cut answers are often elusive. The oath serves as a moral compass, but it's ultimately up to each individual officer to translate its principles into action. Section 1. Trials of a nascent force policing the Victorian Underworld. The nascent Metropolitan Police faced a baptism by fire in the teeming streets of Victorian London. Poverty, disease, and crime cast a long shadow over the burgeoning metropolis. Pickpockets, thieves, and gangs operated with impunity, exploiting the anonymity of the crowded city. Early officers, ill-equipped and often outnumbered, found themselves thrust into a world of vice and violence. They patrolled dimly lit alleyways, confronted hardened criminals, and sought to maintain order in a society rife with social unrest. These formative years tested the mettle of the force, exposing both its strengths and vulnerabilities as it grappled with the challenges of policing a rapidly changing world. The Section 2, Public Perception and Evolving Expectations, a force under scrutiny. The relationship between the police and the public was fraught with tension from the outset. Many viewed the newly established force with suspicion, associating it with government overreach and infringement upon personal liberties. Incidents of corruption and brutality, though not widespread, fueled public distrust. Newspapers, eager for sensational stories, often portrayed the police in a negative light, amplifying public anxieties. As the 19th century progressed, however, public expectations evolved. Citizens demanded greater professionalism, transparency, and accountability from those entrusted with upholding the law. This growing demand for a more responsive and responsible police force laid the groundwork for the formalization of the complaint process. Section 3, Pioneers of Reform shaping the future of law enforcement. Amidst the challenges, visionary individuals emerged dedicated to shaping the police force into a beacon of professionalism and integrity. Men like Howard Vincent, appointed Director of Criminal Investigations in 1878, recognized the need for modernization and reform. Vincent introduced groundbreaking investigative techniques, established specialized units, and championed the use of forensic evidence, laying the foundation for modern detective work. These pioneers of reform understood that public trust was paramount and that a truly effective police force required not only strength but also integrity, intelligence, and a commitment to justice. Section 4. Technological advancements and their impact on accountability. The late 19th and early 20th centuries witnessed a wave of technological advancements that profoundly impacted policing. The invention of the telephone revolutionized communication, enabling faster response times and improved coordination among officers. Photography and fingerprinting emerged as powerful tools for identification, replacing subjective eyewitness accounts with more objective forms of evidence. These advancements, while enhancing crime-fighting capabilities, also introduced new avenues for scrutiny. The use of force, once witnessed only by those present, could now be documented and scrutinized, laying the groundwork for greater accountability. Section 5. From whispers to written complaints, formalising grievances. In the early years, complaints against officers were often handled informally, through whispers in back alleys or hushed conversations with local constables. However, as the police force grew and public expectations evolved, a more structured approach became necessary. The late 19th century saw the gradual emergence of written complaints, allowing citizens to formally document their grievances against officers. These early complaint procedures were far from perfect, often lacking transparency and independence. Nevertheless, they represented a crucial step towards a more accountable and responsive police force. Section 1, the case of Stephen Lawrence, a turning point for police accountability. The year is 1993. Stephen Lawrence, an 18-year-old aspiring architect, is brutally murdered in an unprovoked racist attack at a bus stop in southeast London. The initial police investigation is marred by incompetence and allegations of institutional racism. Leads are not followed, evidence is mishandled, and the 5 suspects, despite being identified early on, remain free. The Lawrence family, fueled by grief and a burning desire for justice, refused to let the case fade. Their unwavering determination sparks national outrage and shines a harsh spotlight on the failings of the police. The Macpherson inquiry, launched in 1998, delivers a scathing indictment of the Metropolitan Police, labelling it institutionally racist. The inquiry's findings send shockwaves through the nation, forcing the police to confront uncomfortable truths about their own culture and practices. The case of Stephen Lawrence becomes a watershed moment for police accountability, leading to sweeping reforms, including the establishment of the Independent Police Complaints Commission, the forerunner to today's Independent Office for Police Conduct. The death of Ian Tomlinson when public trust unravels. London is gripped by the G20 protests. Ian Tomlinson, a newspaper vendor, collapses and dies after being struck by a police officer. Shocking video footage contradicts the initial police account. The footage shows Tomlinson being shoved to the ground. The case ignites public fury and raises questions about police brutality. The officer is cleared of charges, but the case highlights the power of video evidence. Section 3. The Rotherham child sexual exploitation scandal. Systemic failures exposed. The Rotherham child sexual exploitation scandal, spanning over 2 decades from the 1990s to the 2010s, unveils a horrifying tale of systemic failure and institutional neglect. Over 1,400 children, predominantly white girls from disadvantaged backgrounds, are subjected to horrific sexual abuse by gangs of predominantly British Pakistani men. The police and social services are aware of the abuse but fail to act decisively, often dismissing victims' accounts and prioritising political correctness over child protection. An independent inquiry, commissioned in 2014, exposes a culture of denial and inaction within both the police and social services. The report criticizes the authorities for their blatant failures and highlights the devastating impact of their inaction on the lives of countless children. The Rotherham scandal serves as a chilling reminder that police misconduct extends beyond individual acts of brutality or corruption. It exposes the devastating consequences of institutional failings, where systemic biases and a lack of accountability can allow horrific abuse to flourish unchecked. Section 4, The Murder of Sarah Everard, Reigniting the Debate on Police Violence, March 2021. Sarah Everard, a 33-year-old marketing executive, disappears while walking home in South London. Her disappearance sparks a nationwide search and ignites a wave of fear and anger amongst women. Days later, a serving Metropolitan Police officer, Wayne Cousins, is arrested and charged with her kidnap and murder. The details of the case as they emerge are horrifying. Cousins, using his police ID and knowledge of lockdown restrictions, falsely arrests Everard before raping and murdering her. The Everard case sends shockwaves through the UK, reigniting the debate on police violence, particularly against women. It exposes the vulnerabilities women face daily and raises serious questions about the vetting and oversight of police officers. The case serves as a stark reminder that police misconduct can manifest not only in acts of physical violence, but also in the abuse of power and the betrayal of trust, shattering the very foundation upon which law enforcement is built.
Section 1. The Complainant's Perspective, Trauma, Distrust, and the Quest for Justice. Imagine finding yourself on the other side of the badge, not as a citizen in need of protection, but as a complainant, alleging misconduct by those sworn to uphold the law. The experience for many is fraught with emotional turmoil. Trauma, often the catalyst for a complaint, can manifest in a myriad of ways: anxiety, sleeplessness, flashbacks, and a heightened sense of vulnerability. Distrust in the police, once an abstract concept, becomes a visceral reality. Navigating the complaint process itself can be re-traumatizing. Recounting painful experiences, facing skepticism, and enduring lengthy investigations can exacerbate psychological distress. The quest for justice, while essential, can become an all-consuming endeavour, impacting relationships, work, and mental well-being.
Section 2. The Officer's Perspective. Stress, Scrutiny, and the Erosion of Morale. The psychological impact of police complaints extends beyond the complainant, reaching deep into the ranks of law enforcement itself. Officers, often hailed as heroes, face intense scrutiny and public judgment when accused of misconduct. The weight of the badge, heavy enough in the best of times, becomes an even heavier burden to bear. Stress levels soar, fueled by the uncertainty of investigations, potential disciplinary action, and the fear of reputational damage. The blue wall of silence, once a source of camaraderie, can morph into a barrier to seeking help, leaving officers feeling isolated and alone. Public scrutiny, amplified by social media, can feel relentless and unforgiving. The actions of a few can tarnish the reputation of the many, eroding morale and breeding cynicism within the force.
Section 3. The Psychological Toll of Public Scrutiny, Living Under a Microscope. In today's hyper-connected world, police complaints unfold not only in courtrooms and investigation rooms, but also in the unforgiving arena of public opinion. Social media, a double-edged sword, can amplify calls for accountability, while simultaneously fueling a climate of fear, judgment, and rush to judgment. For both complainants and accused officers, the experience of living under a microscope can be deeply unsettling. Privacy feels invaded, reputations are vulnerable, and the pressure to defend oneself against often unfounded accusations can be overwhelming. The court of public opinion, swift to judge and slow to forgive, can leave lasting psychological scars on all parties involved. Section 4. The Impact on Community Relations, Fractured Trust, and the Challenge of Reconciliation. Police complaints, by their very nature, expose the fault lines in the relationship between law enforcement and the communities they serve. Every complaint, regardless of its validity, chips away at the foundation of trust, leaving behind a residue of suspicion, fear, and resentment. When trust is broken, it's not easily repaired. Communities may feel hesitant to report crimes, fearing indifference or retaliation. Officers, facing increased scrutiny and distrust, may retreat into a defensive posture, further widening the divide. Rebuilding trust requires a multifaceted approach rooted in transparency, accountability, and a genuine commitment to listening to and addressing community concerns. Section 5, Seeking Resolution, the importance of support, therapy, and systemic change. The psychological wounds inflicted by police misconduct and the ensuing complaints process can run deep, impacting individuals, families, and communities for years to come. Addressing these wounds requires a multi-pronged approach, encompassing both individual healing and systemic change. Complainants often benefit from therapy, finding solace in sharing their experiences, processing trauma, and developing coping mechanisms. Support groups, where individuals can connect with others who have navigated similar challenges, can provide a sense of community and validation. Officers, too, need access to mental health resources tailored to the unique stresses of their profession. Confidential counseling, peer support programs, and training on stress management and resilience can help officers navigate the emotional toll of their work. Ultimately, however, true resolution lies not only in individual healing, but also in systemic change. Police departments must prioritize accountability, transparency, and cultural sensitivity, creating an environment where misconduct is not tolerated and where both complainants and officers feel heard, respected, and supported.
Section 1. The Post-Macpherson Era, a new framework for accountability. The Macpherson Report, published in 1999, marked a pivotal moment in British policing. Its findings of institutional racism forced a reckoning with bias, discrimination, and accountability. The report's recommendations emphasized transparency, independent oversight, and community engagement. The Police Reform Act 2002 established the Independent Police Complaints Commission. The post-Macpherson era signaled a shift towards a more citizen-centric approach to policing. The Independent Office for Police Conduct investigates the most serious cases. Established in 2018, the IOPC handles serious police misconduct, including deaths, injuries, and corruption. It operates independently to ensure public confidence. The IOPC can initiate its own investigations. Outcomes range from exoneration to criminal prosecution. Findings are published to enhance transparency. Section 3. The Police Conduct Regulations, 2020. Defining misconduct and strengthening sanctions. The Police Conduct Regulations, 2020 form the backbone of the disciplinary framework. These regulations outline the standards of professional behaviour and define misconduct. They cover offences like abuse of authority, discriminatory behaviour, dishonesty, and use of force. The 2020 regulations introduced key changes, including lowering the threshold for misconduct, strengthening sanctions, and extending the time limit for bringing proceedings. These changes aim to strengthen accountability and ensure officers are held responsible. Section 4. Body-worn cameras, a tool for transparency and evidence gathering. The widespread adoption of body-worn cameras by police forces across England and Wales has significantly impacted the landscape of police complaints. These cameras, typically worn on an officer's chest or shoulder, record video and audio footage of their interactions with the public. Body-worn cameras serve multiple purposes, enhancing transparency, providing an objective record of police-public encounters, which can help to resolve complaints and build public trust. Gathering evidence, capturing valuable footage that can be used in criminal investigations and disciplinary proceedings. Modifying behaviour. Studies have shown that both police officers and members of the public tend to behave more respectfully when they know they are being recorded. While body-worn cameras are not without their limitations, Concerns remain about privacy, data storage, and the potential for selective editing of footage. They have become an increasingly important tool in the quest for greater police accountability. Section 5. The ongoing quest for justice, addressing systemic issues and building public trust. Despite progress, the system for handling police complaints in England and Wales faces challenges. Concerns remain about investigation, consistency, resolution time, and accountability. Addressing these requires tackling systemic issues, improving transparency, and empowering communities. Investing in training and education is crucial. Building public trust in law enforcement is essential for a just society.
Our journey through the annals of police complaints has illuminated a complex and often fraught relationship between law enforcement and the public they serve. From the cobbled streets of Victorian London to the digitally interconnected world of today, the quest for accountability, transparency, and justice has been a constant thread, weaving its way through decades of progress and setbacks. We've witnessed a nascent police force grapple with the challenges of a rapidly changing society, striving to balance the demands of law enforcement with the rights and freedoms of a diverse citizenry. The echoes of landmark cases, Stephen Lawrence, Ian Tomlinson, Sarah Everard, serve as stark reminders of the human cost of police misconduct, the erosion of public trust, and the urgent need for systemic change. Yet, amidst the shadows of these tragedies, we've also seen glimmers of hope, a testament to the unwavering pursuit of a fairer, more just system of policing. The relationship between the police and the public is, by its very nature, a delicate equilibrium, a balancing act between the need for order and the imperative of liberty. Accountability, the cornerstone of this balance, requires that those entrusted with the power of the badge are held responsible for their actions, both individually and institutionally. However, accountability cannot exist in a vacuum, devoid of trust. When trust erodes, so too does the willingness of communities to cooperate with law enforcement, to report crimes, to view the police as partners in ensuring safety and justice. Rebuilding trust, a painstaking and ongoing process, requires a genuine commitment to listening to community concerns, addressing systemic biases, and demonstrating a willingness to learn from past mistakes. The pursuit of a more just and equitable system of policing is not a zero-sum game, where gains for one side come at the expense of the other. It requires a nuanced approach, one that recognizes the legitimate concerns of both law enforcement and the communities they serve. As we look to the future of policing in England and Wales, the question is not whether further reform is needed, but rather what form that reform should take. The conversation must move beyond reactive responses to individual incidents of misconduct towards a more proactive approach that addresses the root causes of police violence, discrimination, and abuse of power. Investing in training and education is paramount, equipping officers with the skills to de-escalate tense situations, to recognize and address unconscious biases, and to engage with diverse communities in a culturally sensitive manner. Community policing models, which emphasize partnership, collaboration, and problem-solving at the local level, offer a promising path forward, fostering trust and understanding between law enforcement and the people they serve. Technology, too, has a role to play, but it must be deployed responsibly and ethically, with robust safeguards to protect privacy and prevent misuse. Body-worn cameras, data analytics, and other emerging technologies can enhance transparency, improve evidence gathering, and provide valuable insights into police-public interactions. Ultimately, the pursuit of a more just and equitable system of policing is not solely the responsibility of law enforcement. It is a collective endeavour requiring the active participation of government, civil society, and individual citizens. We must demand transparency and accountability from our elected officials, holding them responsible for enacting meaningful reforms and providing adequate oversight of law enforcement agencies. We must support organisations working to promote police reform, advocate for the rights of victims of misconduct, and hold police departments accountable for their actions. And perhaps most importantly, we must engage in open and honest dialogue with each other, bridging divides, challenging assumptions, and working collaboratively to create a society where everyone feels safe, respected, and protected by those sworn to uphold the law. The journey towards a more just and equitable system of policing is ongoing, marked by both progress and setbacks. But by working together with a shared commitment to accountability, transparency, and trust, we can create a future where the shadows of misconduct fade and the light of justice shines brightly upon all. If you found this video informative, please subscribe and press the like button.